Well, hello everyone, are you ready for some more Dalek action figures? Of course you are. Welcome back to another Doctor Who action figure review covering the B&M exclusive History of the Daleks series. In today's review, the 21st set, covering the 13th Doctor adventure, Eve of the Daleks. Of course we all expected more Daleks from this series, because they're relentless with these variants. However, I don't think we quite expected them this soon, before even the official announcement. They started to materialise late last week, they've been officially announced this Monday morning, but is this set any good? Are they just dull variants? Let's find out, shall we? So the packaging is exactly the same idea to usual. It is the 21st box set from the History of the Daleks collector figure series from the 13th Doctor era. That means for the first ever time the TARDIS depicted on the side of the box is in fact era specific. The rather stylish diamond design logo is off to the side on a triangular box out. We have the now traditional limited edition sticker. Features bubble states that this set includes 2 executioner Daleks from Eve of the Daleks, broadcast in 2022, which feels like quite a long time ago to be fair. Top of the box is very clean, a diamond design Doctor Who logo. The accompanied tat is hidden away at the bottom, and the sides of the box repeat the same information. This style guide continues to look rather lovely. We all know the vortex depends on the particular incarnation of the Doctor. First time that we've had one from the 13th Doctor era, it has a rather unusual reddy hue. Although I've got to be honest, in person it does look a little bit sun-bleached. Still looks alright though. Again, the Daleks are trapped in this rather tight plastic shell. Other than the previous plastic window design, it doesn't look great, it looks a lot cheaper. Also harder to spot quality control issues, and overall doesn't look great. The back of the box is the same to usual. Official Doctor Who sticker in the bottom corner. And finally your usual story synopsis write-up reminding me what the story was actually about, because I completely forgot, as well as a description about how the Daleks changed in the episodes. That's nice. So here we have Meredith and Gertrude out of the box. Yes, I have gave them names just to make this review a little bit more exciting. These two Daleks are identical, but they do feature quite a major revision to the colour palette. More on that interesting development a little bit later on. Most excitingly, we have the debut of not one, but 2 new appendages. I'm grateful for, don't get me wrong, but it also raises even more questions when it comes to last year's sets. I did really enjoy those sets, I enjoyed collecting the 2 different versions, but they were also quite the disappointment because we had this Assault Dalek here, easily used the 2006 Assault Dalek claw that's just simply way too out of proportion. I was hoping that they would have upscaled the cannon that was seen within the 3.75 range, or the little wheel cutting accessory, but we didn't get any of that, so the sets were quite flat overall. Now we hop to 2025 where that is seemingly possible. I would have happily bought the previous sets 3 or 4 times over if they came with different appendages. In mind as well, when this series first started, the initial sets were very focused on those smaller details and making these Daleks as interesting as possible, but I feel like along the way it's kind of lost that. Between the years there is lots of inconsistency with what to expect within this range, so it's just very hard to predict. I'd say that this one is certainly one of the boldest yet, certainly compared to previous variants. Other than that, it is of course the same Dalek sculpt to usual, so let's refamiliarise ourselves, shall we? The fender has been sculpted in a sort of matte black plastic. Even this looks a little bit different to usual due to the bronze colour going on up above. As always, the fender is rather angular, divided into various panels. We have the rivets on all of the corners. These haven't been given a dot of silver paint, which is usually something that I would complain about. But when you look at these images of the prop, it turns out that they weren't painted on that either. I can't really complain, which is really annoying, although to be honest I think it would look better if they were painted. Accuracy aside, I think it would just sell the sculpt of the figure a little bit more. Concerningly, I have also noticed this lump here on the edge of the fender, which is present on both Daleks within this set. Was also present on the Parting of the Ways Dalek from last year, although it didn't stand out as much. So I am starting to wonder, through constant usage, is this sculpt starting to break down a little bit? I mean, if he is having a breakdown, I know how he feels. We're on the 21st set of this series by now. Underneath the Dalek fender on the base, you've got usual stuff going on. Company information stamped on the bottom, as well as the back wheels. Simple rotating wheel at the front. It might have been nice to have a grey or silver wash on the fender just to make it a bit worn looking, but to be honest I think paint-wise there's more drastic things going on with this action figure. So now we move up to the skirt of the Dalek, and I'll be honest, I struggle to even call this a bronze Dalek because it looks entirely different to usual. It's more a dark chocolatey colour. Not only that, the sheen is quite interesting. It has a very wet appearance, almost glossy. Obviously the skirt is the same sculpt to always, so it's divided into several angular panels, but due to the finish, as you can see, the way the light bounces off it's really lovely, it's quite dramatic. It's unlike any other New Who Dalek that we have seen released in the past, but with regards to accuracy, I think that is a different story, but as a figure in itself, it actually looks quite cool. I've had Daleks in the past that do have a darker bronzish colour scheme, and those Daleks did have a shimmer. This is just a block brown that's very shiny, so it does look a little bit plasticky. Without that glittery effect, it does actually have the rather bizarre appearance of looking like melting chocolate. One of the other plus sides of the darker colour scheme is some of the seams within the sculpt are a little bit less visible, especially the seam running up the back. Hemispheres have also seen a little bit of a revision. This is a lighter gold, again very dazzling, it certainly stands out on that darker base. There's that rim running around each of the hemisphere, although this is just the same colour to the rest of it. Quality control wise, pretty decent actually, but I do imagine that any paint leaks will stand out for miles. Definitely recommend scrutinising these Daleks prior to purchase. Bit of a bronze comparison, starting from the left we have the 50th anniversary Toys R Us Imperial Guard, then we have this new B&M one, the Crucible Dalek from 2008, as well as the bronze Dalek from the B&M line last year. Favourites wise, this is a really easy one for me because this 50th anniversary Dalek is one of my favourite Daleks of all time. I absolutely love the finish on it. And I'll be honest, I think the darker bronze which is used here does look a lot better. It's flatter, less shiny, it looks a little bit less plasticky too. I did rewatch Eve of the Daleks especially for this review, and I do think this is probably a more realistic bronze finish to the actual props as well. But it is really difficult to say because the 13th Doctor era is lit so bizarrely in many different episodes, and in some of the promo shots for the story, the Dalek does kind of look like this. That said, and I can't believe that I'm saying this, I like this Dalek anyway. It looks really cool. In hand, I think it looks a lot better than it does online. And I'm aware that's not really that helpful given that this is a video review. Maybe this is one of those products that I recommend going into store and having a look at it. Then deciding from there, is it worth purchasing? Because to be honest, I have a feeling this set will probably be around for quite a while anyway. The midsection of the Dalek is nothing new sculpting wise, although the colour revisions continue. We have all of the various armoured plated sections. The band which divides the midsection from the skirt is the same as the rest of the base colour, unlike other Dalek releases like the Metaltron. Again, any paint leaks here would stand out a lot, but it's rather well painted to be honest. The colouring on the slats also matches the hemisphere. It has this lovely light golden shimmer. At some angles I do think this is a rather harsh contrast to the base. Again, continuing the chocolate theme, it's as if someone's waxed some gold in a birthday cake. Despite the rather similar colouring, I do like that we have the silver highlight at the bottom and top of each slat. To represent the rivets, I honestly thought they would miss that off. See, the slats are smaller towards the front. The weaponry boxes poke outwards, and again they share this lighter gold finish. The ball joints are a glossy black. I think this works. Does it look like what's seen on screen? Again, personal opinion, no. I think they've kind of took the colour scheme to the extreme, perhaps just for the sake of it. As if they were to go for a more realistic darker bronze, even then I think it would still look considerably similar to the bronze Daleks that we've seen already. But I think younger me would actually find these Daleks rather cool still, regardless of accuracy. Right, we've waited long enough, time to get to the main selling point of this set, and it is the new appendages. Starting off with the plunger claw thing, this is somewhat similar to your usual manipulator arm. It's rather long, I love the silver finish, the silver is rather shiny, it looks rather metally as a result, which is something the B&M line often does get right. I love the black wash over the top as well, it looks worn, battle damaged. The new divided plunger thing is an interesting contraption. It's divided into various sort of petals in a way. Either that or this Dalek has just had a lovely time in Lakeland. It is in fact really intricate for the scale with these little lines on the back. And then we have our amended Dalek blaster. Bottom of this should be rather familiar, but even then it is a new sculpt. It fans out as per, but again I like the darkened wash added over the top. This is a little bit wider to usual. Obviously the end of the gun is much more exciting. It's divided into several tubes. The box describes this as a Gatling gun or something like that. No idea what that means, I'm not into weapons. It's a really lovely sculpt, very highly detailed for the scale. Both Meredith and Gertrude do feature the new guns, but there's no difference paint-wise between them. Thought maybe one of them could have had some blue dots in the end or going down the centre of the barrel to give the appearance that it's being shot. Then at least there's some difference. I don't know if other people would be into that, but I thought it might be a nice touch. Why not do a little bit of a Mrs. P. Seagal zombie upgrade and have a glow-in-the-dark effect on one of the guns, or maybe that's a bit too mid-2000s. I mentioned at the top of this review the lack of new appendages of the History of the Daleks set last year, and it's kind of an essential that this set has those new appendages, as without them there isn't really much of a set. And whether or not this is enough is up to you. Moving up to the neck bin now, the same sculpt to usual, no surprises there. It's always one of my favourite parts of the sculpt, the way that the circular panels match up with that mesh underneath. It's nicely textured as always. I like the way that the columns run down, complete with the small rivets and screws. Speaking of screws, the little screw cover on the side of the Dalek is also quite well hidden on this release. It's been fixed in place right, which is good. The other Daleks that we've had in recent years have been really higgledy-piggledy. Moving up to the dome now, nothing new at all going on. It's divided into the same panels as always. The eye socket is positioned in unusual housing. One of the unintentional positive side effects of this bizarre new base colour is just how much the light bulbs stand out, especially the silver base and the framing. It also makes the clear bulb in the centre stand out along that corrugated line effect, probably because it's such a drastically different colour to the main base, so that's cool. The eye stalk is on your usual textured matte black wheels. It moves up and down. The eye stalk is made out of a fairly solid plastic this time. It's not too flexible unlike some of the previous releases. It does pop out though quite easily, so don't eat it, even if you're peckish. The eye stalk is nicely painted with the silver base. The rings are clear. Rings do look slightly frosted this time actually, almost a creamy design. Matte black on the ending eye socket, and the iris is your darker blue. I was going to say that this might be a slightly darker shade compared to your previous Daleks, like the Parting of the Ways ones from last year, but to be honest, it looks pretty much the same. Which is the problem with this range. We've seen this sculpt now so many times, it is really difficult to get excited about them. But then again, if you're a fan of the 13th Doctor era, this era is so underserved within action figure form, I imagine anything is nice for that part of the shelf. The two Daleks within this set may well look identical, that's because they basically are, but we do have one difference with the dome, and that is with our good old friend, the ID badge. Because of this, we can tell Meredith and Gertrude apart. Have an entirely brand new Dalek ID badge. This one's quite long, series of lines and circles. Gertrude, this one looks a little bit similar to Dalek Sex ID, more familiar to what we know, but is still brand new. I'm really glad that they've done this, because I think this set especially, despite the new appendages, still needs a few additional selling points. It's a nice development from the previous History of the Daleks set as well, which had no ID badges at all, which I know some say is more accurate, but to be honest, in the toy form, I think it looks better with an ID badge anyway. And accuracy-wise, this is never going to be 100% accurate because it's a 5-inch plastic Dalek. I just think it looks better with an ID badge. So things like this, it's appreciated. There are things about this set which I have to praise. The new appendages, the quality control overall, and the new ID badge details. I'm really surprised by how much I do like the new paint application. I think it kind of works. The lighter gold is really dazzling. The darker brown finish is quite bizarre but unique. But accuracy-wise, I think it is 100% an exaggerated version of what was seen on screen. I feel like we've seen character options do this multiple times before to make action figures look more interesting and varied, because the alternative is probably way too similar to what we've seen many times already. Imagine if you're a fan of the 13th Doctor era, this set will be very welcome, because this era has very little action figures. But I do think from an accuracy side, the colour palette does let this figure down a little bit. Even if we keep the same colours, I think a wash added over the top would have distracted a little bit. Because perhaps these Daleks are just a little bit too pristine and that makes them look a bit weird. But then again, in an era like this one, which is so bizarrely lit, it's very hard to tell. And with the release of this set and the TARDIS, for once, 13th Doctor era fans are actually quite lucky. But that concludes certainly one of the oddest B&M exclusive waves which has been released to date. Because of the rather bizarre nature of this set, particularly when it comes to the colour scheme, I find myself finding it really difficult to recommend this one. I think it's one that you have to go into store and look at with your own eyes to decide if you like it, because I feel odd liking the colour scheme. I feel like I shouldn't. It feels like a really bizarre Dalek, but there's something about it that I do rather like. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Do of course stay tuned on The Host Productions for regular reviews of the latest Doctor Who merchandise releases. Have a nice day, and I shall see you all next time.